Okay, let's take a look at the box office from this past week. Total domestic box office, a little under 280 million, which was just a 7% drop. The reason why this week is so close to the previous week is because I don't do just the weekends, I do the week totals. And obviously this last week, the Monday was not a normal Monday, it was Memorial Day. Not just the weekend, but Memorial Day exactly. So that definitely helped give some movies like a little bit of a, I don't want to say a bump, but like helped it hold a lot better than it maybe would have otherwise, right? But this week was primarily dominated by older films, and by older I just mean things that have already been released. It's not its first week. The best performing new movie was the new Karate Kid movie, Karate Kid Legends. Brought in a little over 20 million, which fell between my projections, but definitely below my target of 26 million. Critics don't really like this movie all that much. Audiences seem to like it quite a bit, though. But it'll be interesting to see. Will that translate into staying power? My guess is no, right? Because again, the Karate Kid brand, I feel like it's just not strong enough to like it's just not relevant anymore, unfortunately, right? Or not even unfortunately. It was a good movie, and they've just made sequel after sequel after sequel, and I don't think audiences really care all that much anymore. So, it's worldwide. It's made a little over 46 million off of a $45 million budget. So it's crossed that initial threshold of the budget. But ideally, we would want to see it get to somewhere around 90 million to really break even in a meaningful way. But again, the box office, just like the lineup, is just going to get more crowded and crowded as we keep going. So, it's the jury's still out how this is going to do, but it's a solid. It's a fair opening. I wouldn't say it's even solid. It's a fair opening. But what will really be telling is that second week drop, right? Also opening this week, Bring Her Back, the horror kind of follow-up from the directors behind Talk to Me, right, which was kind of a sleek cult status movie, kind of a sleeper hit, if you will. I think that was 2 summers ago. From Australian, I think they were YouTubers first, and then they became like film directors, which is so encouraging, right? This brought in a little over 7 million, which again fell within the projections, though did fall below my target of 8, but obviously it was not as big of as a gap, right? I'm only like 1 million short of that target. Though, it'll be one of those things where hopefully the word of mouth, because critics seem to really like it. Audiences don't like it quite as much. And I'm going to do a little bit of live research here to see what did audiences like Talk to Me. Yes, they gave it, Talk to Me has an 83% in terms of the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. So, I guess not that far off from this, right? Because what is it, 79%? It cost $15 million to make this movie. So, it's still not even at that threshold, let alone getting to 30 million. So, it'll really depend on, can this sustain itself? Can it kind of be like, Talk to Me, that again was kind of a sleeper hit. Let me see here. Yeah, so it cost $4.5 million. Talk to Me, and made $92 million. Right, so huge success. Is this gonna have that same? Can lightning strike twice? That still remains to be seen, right? But again, like I mentioned before, this week was primarily dominated with films that have already been released. And of course, holding on to its number one spot, the 2025 remake of Lilo and Stitch. This hurts, right? So, because I have not seen this, but I was already not enthused because it just looked so soulless and uninspired. But everything I've heard about this movie just makes my blood boil about like story changes that they've made, thematic changes that they've made. And I'm not like a source material purist, but if you're going to change something, especially something that worked so well, you have to have a really good reason or justification. I feel like a lot of the changes they made were just changes to make changes, just to give it some kind of differentiation. Again, critics like it fine enough, but audiences seem to really, really like it, at least just general audiences. In its second week now, it brought in this second week. Again, this is including Memorial Day, that Monday. So, again, a little bit skewed, but this second week, bringing in a little under 133 million. Only a 9% drop, which is just a little bit lower than the week total drop. If you look worldwide here, 613 million north of that, off of just a $100 million budget, which, again, I remember remarking, that's like a pretty cheap budget for a movie like this, all things considered. But then I realized it's really just Stitch, which admittedly he looks good in the sense that, like, I don't think he's designed well in live action. He looks like a lot creepier, but he looks photorealistic. Like the rendering on his fur is good and things like that. But otherwise, there's not a lot of VFX from my understanding because they cut Gantu. There's a lot of stuff. It's like it's a lot of front-loaded VFX work with all the stuff in the like the sci-fi parts before they get to Hawaii. But from my understanding, they cut Captain Gantu, and Jumba and Pleakley are predominantly played by live-action humans as like a disguise to save money, right, on this budget. But considering how much it costs versus how much it's made worldwide, this is a smashing success. And once again, Hollywood, specifically the Walt Disney Company, is going to learn the wrong lessons from this, right? Look at that, over 500% return in its second week. This movie was so frustrating, even just to hear about. My fiance Viviana and I rewatched the original film. Oh my god. It gets every time I watch it. I watch it like every couple of years, and every time I watch it, it gets better. Like, this is a 9 out of 10 movie. I used to not like it that much as a kid, but I think it's just because it made me uncomfortable because of like the emotional kind of complexity of like the situation that they're in. But as an adult, it's just like, it's probably one of the best Disney movies that has ever been made, right? This movie, not so much. It's gonna make a lot of money. It's gonna have zero cultural impact. Also continuing into its second week, holding its second place spot, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I think it's the seventh or 8th Mission Impossible movie. Critics liked it pretty well. Audiences really like it. Brought in this week about 58 million. So again, only a 7% drop, so kind of held exactly with the rest of the week. But unlike Lilo and Stitch, which is a massive profit right now, Mission Impossible is still in the negative zone, right? Because it sounds like a sci-fi thing. Isn't Superman the Phantom Zone? The Phantom Zone, the negative zone. Because this is technically a two-parter with Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. But the budgets for both of those films were astronomical because, and this is like good on a human level, but it's obviously bad for business. When COVID happened, they were filming and they shut everything down, but they kept paying the crew, right? Otherwise, they'd be like out of work and everything. So that is what accounts for such a mammothly expensive budget. Which again, on a human level, like, that is so beautiful and commendable. But it's going to be a question, is this movie going to make money, right? Like, is this going to... It's going to cross the 400 mark. The question will be, can it have legs? Can it sustain itself? And I'm a little dubious about that because again, we're really going to start getting into the weeds here. So I'm just going to take a quick look here at, the next couple of big movies. We have like the John Wick spin-off Ballerina coming next week, or this Friday exactly. Then the next week we have the How to Train Your Dragon movie. Then the week after that, 28 years later. Like, so, and then after that, Megan 2.0 and an F1 movie. So there's going to be a lot of competition. Oh, and then the first week of July, Jurassic World, the new Jurassic World, and then Spider-Man. So it's like week after week, like, there's going to be a lot of competition. So can this get to 800 million worldwide? I just don't think so. I just don't see that happening for this movie. And again, like, that's such a big amount. That's such a large amount of money to have to hit. But that's what happens when you have a budget so large, right? Let's see what else. Also continuing into its second week, we have The Last Rodeo. Again, one of these like movies that clearly maybe should have just gone would have just gone straight to video or streaming before, but now they're like, oh, streaming sucks, it's not a good business model, we have to release everything in theaters again. This dropped from 6th to 8th place. Critics, again, were kind of lukewarm on it. Audiences really like it because, again, it's just kind of like what you would find flipping through channels. It actually had a 1% jump, so good for the last rodeo. And it's made a little less than $11 million off an $8 million budget. So cross that at first threshold, but let's see if it can get to 16. But seeing as it opened at 6 and is already down to 8, I'm a little skeptical of that. Still here in the top 5, Final Destination Bloodlines, holding its 3rd place spot now in its 3rd week. Critics and audiences really like this. From my understanding, it's kind of like a subversive, tongue-in-cheek horror film, whereas like some of the other Final Destination films really kind of lost sight of what made them interesting for a lot of people. And this is also profitable, right? It's fairly expensive considering a horror film. Because horror films are usually in the single-digit millions, maybe double, maybe like into the 10s or even the 20s. $50 million for a horror movie is a lot, right? Because, you're going to be limited in how much money you can make, because if you notice, what's the biggest movie right now? Lilo and Stitch. And it's a family movie. So not only can more people go, but you're not going to have a lot of single ticket people. Like a lot of adults who are going to go are families, and they're going with their spouse and their kids, minimum 1 kid, if not 2 or 3 or how many, right? Whereas a horror film self-selects for mostly adults or at least teenagers. So there's just going to be a lower ceiling of how much money you can make. And again, this isn't going crazy. It's only made about 230-ish million worldwide. But again, it's all a numbers game. Since it was only cost $50 million, this is definitely within the profitable zone, I would say. What also is in the profitable zone, and again, it's also about a numbers game, is Sinners, right? So Sinners, the Ryan Coogler film, his finally returning to original films following his stint doing Black Panther movies. Critics and audiences adore this. A lot of people are already saying this is one of, if not the best movie of the year so far. I saw it. This is actually one of the films I broke my little bit of a hiatus to go to the theaters to see. I thought it was really great. A little messy, but really interesting big swings. And the legs on this has just been really strong, making just making money week after week. I mean, it's been here for this is its 7th frame now. And off of a $90 million budget, it's made almost $350 million worldwide. And again, I always say this, and I don't mean to be reductive, but ostensibly a horror film, an original horror film led by a predominantly black cast, doing this well, is just so cool to see. And I hope, this inspires Hollywood to take more chances like this, right? And there's not really anything else to really write home about here. I mean, Thunderbolts is still here, obviously, but it's just kind of making whatever money it can. It just barely crossed over into the $360 million. I think last week I was like, oh, it's going to cross that doubling the budget soon, and it has done that. So I think we could safely assume it is broken even. But again, compared to the MCU of the past, that, breaking even was a, like that would not have been the metric that you would measure the success of a film in the MCU, right? But I do have to mention here, really, I misspoke about Lilo and Stitch, but it's the same thing applies. I said Lilo and Stitch is the best performing film here, and it's because it's a family film. There's actually another film that's doing slightly better, which is a Minecraft movie, and it's 9th frame now, dropped from 8th to 10th place. Again, critics did not like this movie. Audiences really did. It kind of became a meme. It's made $948 million worldwide off of a $150 million budget. And again, the question is this going to hit $1 billion? I don't know, because the growth of movies is usually logarithmic, right? So the longer you go, the less and less you're going to make, and you just kind of flatline. So I don't know. I'm almost of the minds if a Minecraft movie crosses $1 billion, there's something wrong with our society. I'm just saying. I'm sorry. And then looking ahead to this upcoming week, I mentioned it earlier, but we have the John Wick spinoff Ballerina, starring Ana de Armas, who I feel is too cute to be an assassin. I don't just mean she's pretty, but she's has a cute little doll baby face. I feel like I don't know how that would work, but this is projected to make around 30 to 40 million. I'm gonna put the target around 36. I've admittedly never seen any of the John Wick movies, but I know they're beloved. But I wonder how well this will do as a spin-off to John Wick, right? Like, I mean, there's been 4 mainline films. How much do people like this franchise to go support a spin-off that I guess maybe features John Wick, but like as like he's not the main character, right? So I don't know how this is gonna play with audiences, especially considering the last one came out. It feels like a while ago because it was like during COVID, right? Wasn't it like 2022 or something like that? Let's see, John Wick 4. When did that come? Yeah, 2023. Okay, wow, it feels so much longer ago. So we'll just have to see how this plays with audiences. And then we also have Wes Anderson's new joint, if you will, the Phoenician Scheme. I guess this has already maybe been out briefly, like in the limited release, but this is it going wide. Going wide across America. Only projected to make around 7 to 11 million. I'm going to put the target around 9. Again, the films like this aren't really expected to make a shit ton of money. But because they're more awards vehicles or prestige vehicles. And also, they don't usually open big, but I think they tend to kind of have, again, that consistency of holding out week to week to week. So we'll see where the chips fall on that. I'm not really the biggest. I really don't like Wes Anderson films. I've only seen like one that I really really like. What was it? The French Dispatch, which I guess people don't really like all that much, but that was like my favorite one that I've seen by Wes. Wow, what an interesting story. I'm sure you have some thoughts about the topic, so comment below, let me know what you think. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really, really helps people find the channel and makes me feel all warm inside. Until next time, I'm Peter Mancuso. Peace out.